Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Saira Mujtaba and with me is Reshma Tiwari with the evening news. The headlines. 63.44% voter turnout recorded in single-phase assembly elections in Punjab. 57.43% voting registered in the third phase in Uttar Pradesh till 5 p.m. Campaigning in full swing for two-phase polling in Manipur and remaining phases of Uttar Pradesh. Election Commission restores maximum limit on number of star campaigners as COVID-19 cases decline in the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says development in Arunachal Pradesh being accelerated with focus on modern infrastructure. India advises its citizens in Ukraine to leave the country temporarily in view of continued tensions. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets Indian community at Munich, emphasizes on strong momentum of India-Germany relations. President Ramnath Kovind to review naval fleet at a ceremonial event at Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh tomorrow. EPFO adds 14.6 lakh net subscribers during December last year. 48th Khajuraho Dance Festival begins in Madhya Pradesh. And in cricket, third and final T20 international between India and West Indies underway in Kolkata. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and get fully vaccinated, and also help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Polling concluded peacefully for the single-phase assembly elections in Punjab and third phase of polls in Uttar Pradesh. Voting took place in 59 assembly constituencies spread over 16 districts in Uttar Pradesh and for 117 seats in Punjab. Till 5 p.m., 63.44% voter turnout was recorded in Punjab and 57.43% voting was registered in Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, districts going to polls in the third phase are Hathras, Etah, Mainpuri, Firozabad, Farrukhabad, Kannauj, Etawah, Auraiya, Kanpur Dehat, Kanpur Nagar, Jhansi and Lalitpur. Elections are being held in 7 phases in Uttar Pradesh. More details from our correspondent.
Barring few sporadic incidents, voting was peaceful in the third phase of elections in Uttar Pradesh. Voters came out in large numbers to exercise their franchise, which is a good sign for democracy. First-time voters and women voters were quite enthusiastic to cast their votes. Third phase has decided the political fate of 627 candidates, including 97 women candidates. The prominent faces in the fray in this phase of elections include Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav, Pragatishil Samajwadi Party President Shivpal Singh Yadav, IPS-turned-politician Asim Arun, Ministers in UP government Satish Mahana, Ram Naresh Agnihotri, Neelima Katiyar and Congress candidate Ajay Kapoor. Out of the 59 seats which went for poll today, BJP bagged 49 last time, while Samajwadi Party got 8 and Congress and BSP got 1 seat each. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Kanpur.
In Punjab, it was a multi-cornered contest with a total of 1,304 candidates in the fray, including 93 women candidates. Addressing a press conference in Chandigarh, Punjab Chief Electoral Officer Dr. S. Karunaraju said the poll panel has set up 24,740 polling stations across the state. Our correspondent has filed this report.
In Punjab, overall, the polling remained peaceful. People in large numbers came out of their houses to exercise their right to vote. The percentage may touch the figure of 70% approximately till the final figures are released by the Chief Electoral Officer. In the Nanagar constituency, a young boy into the polling booth before his marriage and polled his vote. Similarly, Janel Singh polled his vote in village Sujurana of Padilka constituency before his marriage. The senior citizens above the age of 80 polled their votes at polling booths. despite getting the facility of ballot paper. In Malerkotla, 119-year-old Muslim woman Nasibo polled his vote. A great enthusiasm was also witnessed in the first-time voters. Most of the youth voted on the issue of education and employment. The young voters were also not behind. At Gurdaspur, Paramveer Singh, who is unable to move, polled his vote at polling booth with the help of wheelchair. Ashwini Kumar Sharma, AIR News, Chandigarh.
Meanwhile, campaigning is in full swing for the remaining phases of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh and two-phased polling in Manipur. In Uttar Pradesh, the star campaigners and prominent leaders of various political parties held public rallies across the state. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed political rallies in Hardoi and Unnao district, where polling will be held in the fourth phase. Addressing the gathering in Hardoi, the Prime Minister said the double-engine BJP government has done a lot of development work in Uttar Pradesh without any discrimination. Attacking the opposition, Mr. Modi termed them Parivarvadi, who are only concerned for the development of their own family. Speaking in Unnao district later in the evening, the Prime Minister attacked Samajwadi Party and said that the whole country is watching how a former Chief Minister is humiliating the police force in front of everyone. On the other hand, Samajwadi Party President Akhilesh Yadav campaigned in Ayodhya district and said that if his party comes to power, it will give employment to over 20 lakh youth in IT sector. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra also campaigned for party candidates in Rai Bareilly district.
In Manipur, the political parties have now intensified their campaign for the upcoming assembly election. The state will go to polls in two phases on the 28th of February and the 5th of March. BJP leaders Sarbanand Sonowal and Pratima Bhaumik campaigned for the party candidates in different parts of the state today. Addressing an election rally in Bishnupur district today, Mr. Sonowal said that despite being in power several times in the centre as well as in Manipur, the Congress party-led governments have always been neglecting the northeast region. He highlighted that now Manipur has set off on the path of development and peace under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Minister N. Biren Singh. He said Prime Minister Modi is working tirelessly for the development of the state. Meanwhile, Congress has announced that party leader Rahul Gandhi will hold an election rally in Imphal tomorrow. Addressing a press conference in Imphal, AICC Manipur in charge Jai Ram Ramesh claimed that Congress will come to power in the state this time. He alleged 5 years of BJP-led government in Manipur was full of misgovernance. The Shiv Sena party released its election manifesto for Manipur polls in Imphal today. Party National Secretary and Rajya Sabha MP Anil Desai released the manifesto in presence of other party leaders. The Election Commission has restored the maximum limit on number of star campaigners and the time period for submission of the list of star campaigners for all ongoing and future elections with immediate effect. The Commission took the decision in view of the decline in cases of COVID-19 and the gradual lifting of restrictions by the central and state governments. The Commission said now the maximum limit on the number of star campaigners for recognized national and state political parties will be 40, and for other than recognized political parties it will be 20. The Commission said this in a letter to the President and General Secretary of the recognized national and state political parties. In October 2020, the Commission had reduced the number of star campaigners for recognized national and state parties. The Commission further added that the list of star campaigners will be communicated within a period of 7 days from the date of the notification. The Commission said that for the ongoing assembly elections to both the phases of Manipur and 5th, 6th and 7th phases of Uttar Pradesh and by-election to Majuli Assembly seat in Assam, the list of additional star campaigners, if any, can be submitted with the Election Commission or the concerned Chief Electoral Officer by 5 p.m. on Wednesday.
Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram are celebrating their Statehood Day today. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the people of Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram on the occasion. In a tweet, President Kovind said, endowed with natural beauty and a rich cultural heritage, both the states exemplify unity in diversity. He wished both the states to make rapid strides in development while living in harmony with nature. The Vice President in his message conveyed best wishes for the all-round growth and prosperity of Arunachal Pradesh. Mr. Naidu also greeted people of Mizoram on their state formation day. The Prime Minister shared a video message on the Statehood Day of Arunachal Pradesh. He expressed confidence that Eastern India and especially Northeast India will be the engine of the country's growth in the 21st century. He said unprecedented work has been done in the last 7 years to accelerate the development of Arunachal Pradesh.
आपने हम पर भरोसा जताया था, उस पर सरकार द्वारा खरी उतर रही है। आपका विश्वास डबल इंजन की सरकार को और अधिक काम करने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करता है और अधिक प्रयास करने की शक्ति देता है। सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास का ये मार्ग अरुणाचल प्रदेश के बेहतर भविष्य को सुनिश्चित करने वाला है। साथियों, मेरा ये पक्का विश्वास रहा है कि पूर्वी भारत और खासकर पूर्वोत्तर भारत 21वीं सदी में देश के विकास का इंजन बनेगा।
Mr. Modi said modern infrastructure is being built in the state, keeping in view security reasons.
हम अरुणाचल को पूर्वी एशिया का एक प्रमुख गेटवे बनाने में पूरी ताकत से जुटे हैं। राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा के लिहाज से भी अरुणाचल की भूमिका को देखते हुए आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण किया जा रहा है। हम अरुणाचल में प्रगति, प्रकृति, पर्यावरण और संस्कृति का सामंजस्य बिठाकर लगातार आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। आप सभी के प्रयास से ये आज देश के सबसे प्रमुख बायोडायवर्सिटी वाले क्षेत्रों में से एक है।
Greeting the people of Mizoram on their Statehood Day, Mr. Modi said, India takes great pride in the vibrant Mizo culture and the contributions of Mizoram to national progress. The Prime Minister prayed for good health and well-being of the people of Mizoram.
You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. 63.44% voter turnout recorded in a single-phase assembly elections in Punjab. 57.43% voting registered in the third phase in Uttar Pradesh till 5 p.m. Campaigning in full swing for two-phase polling in Manipur and remaining phases of Uttar Pradesh. Election Commission restores maximum limit on number of star campaigners as COVID-19 cases decline in the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says development in Arunachal Pradesh being accelerated with focus on modern infrastructure. India advises its citizens in Ukraine to leave the country temporarily in view of continued tensions. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets Indian community at Munich, emphasizes on strong momentum of India-Germany relations. President Ramnath Kovind to review naval fleet at a ceremonial event at Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh tomorrow. EPFO adds 14.6 lakh net subscribers during December last year. 48th Khajuraho Dance Festival begins in Madhya Pradesh. And in cricket, India set a 185-run target before West Indies in third and final T20 International in Kolkata. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे।
Welcome back. You're listening to the evening news. India has advised all its nationals in Ukraine whose stay is not essential and all Indian students to leave the country temporarily in view of continued tensions in Ukraine. The Indian Embassy in Kiev has asked students to also get in touch with student contractors for updates on charter flights. Available commercial flights and charter flights may be availed for travel for orderly and timely departure. Indian students have also been asked to follow Embassy's Facebook page, Twitter handle and website for any update. Tata Group's Air India has announced that it will operate 3 flights between India and Ukraine later this month. It said it will operate 3 flights between India and Ukraine on the 22nd, 24th and 26th of this month. Seats are available on these flights and booking is open through Air India booking offices, its website, call centre and authorized travel agents.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar expressed happiness on meeting the Indian community at Munich in Germany today. In a tweet, the minister said the feelings of the Indian community for the country were heartwarming. Dr. Jaishankar also shared with the community members the confident national mood and emphasized on the strong momentum of India-Germany relations. The External Affairs Minister reached Germany on Friday to take part in the Munich Security Conference. Speaking at the panel discussion of the conference yesterday, Dr. S. Jaishankar hit out at China. He said India's relations with China right now are going through a very difficult phase after Beijing violated border agreements.
Was stable border management. There were no military casualties on the border from 1975. That changed because we had agreements with China not to bring military forces to we call it border, but it's line of actual control. And the Chinese violated those agreements. Now, the state of the border will determine the state of the relationship. That's natural. So, obviously, relations with China right now are going through a very difficult phase.
The External Affairs Minister held a series of meetings with ministers from Europe, Asia and other parts of the world on the sidelines of the conference yesterday. The Eastern Naval Command is all set to host the President's Fleet Review tomorrow. President Ramnath Kovind will review the Indian Navy's fleet at a ceremonial event at Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. More from our correspondent.
The President's Fleet Review, awe-inspiring and much-awaited event, will be conducted at Visakhapatnam on Monday. President Ramnath Kovind, who is also the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, will be reviewing the naval fleet comprising over 60 ships and submarines and 55 aircrafts. The President's yacht is an indigenously built naval offshore petrol vessel, INS Sumitra, which will lead the presidential column. The yacht will be distinguished by the Ashoka emblem and will fly the President's standard on the mast. Dr. G. Kondalrao, AIR News, Vijayawada.
The President's Fleet Review also commemorates the 75th year of independence with the theme Indian Navy, 75 years in service of the nation. Information and Broadcasting Ministry has said that Doordarshan and All India Radio have been preparing for this mega coverage since October last year. Teams have done extensive site surveys, carried out extensive recce around the venue prior to final deployment on land and sea. Doordarshan's coverage of Presidential Fleet Review this year will register many firsts to its credit as it includes a vast array of multi-camera setup on land and water with at least 30 cameras.
President Ramnath Kovind has said that humanity cannot be divided on the basis of religion. He said that Indian religious luminaries have always stressed on the divine unity of mankind that was also adopted by Mahatma Gandhi. The President was speaking after inaugurating the 150th birth anniversary celebration of Srila Prabhupada, the founder of Gaudiya Mission at the holy city of Puri in Odisha today. Mr. Govind said Indian culture has always valued the spirit of selfless service, a form of which was seen in the dedicated service of our doctors, nurses, health workers and COVID warriors during the pandemic. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal chaired a meeting focused on the revamping and fortification of the Department of Commerce to make it future-ready. The strengthening of the department is expected to facilitate the creation of the ecosystem necessary to achieve the target of $2 trillion exports by 2027. Speaking at the meeting, the minister called for consistent strengthening of the Directorate General of Foreign Trade and other organizations and bodies that promote investment and trade.
The provisional payroll data of the Employees Provident Fund Organization, EPFO, which was released today, highlights that the organization has added 14.60 lakh net subscribers during December 2021. It shows an increase of around 2 lakh in net payroll additions in December last year as compared to 12.54 lakh net subscribers added during the corresponding month of previous year. The Ministry of Labour and Employment in a statement said that of the total 14.6 lakh net subscribers added, 9.11 lakh new members have been enrolled under Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952 for the first time. Over 175 crore 37 lakh vaccine doses have been administered under the nationwide vaccination drive so far. The recovery rate is currently at 98.28%. In the last 24 hours, over 48,000 recoveries were reported. More than 19,000 new cases were recorded and 673 deaths were registered.
Union Health and Family Welfare Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia and Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare Dr. Bharti Pawar inaugurated 2 new departments and 2 new research centres at International Institute for Population Sciences IIPS at Devanar in Mumbai today. The newly inaugurated departments are Department of Survey Research and Data Analytics and Department of Family and Generations. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Mandavia said, India has a huge population of 1.4 billion and using data analytics and artificial intelligence, the country would be able to synchronize this data into metadata. The 48th Khajuraho Dance Festival commenced in Madhya Pradesh this evening. Madhya Pradesh Governor Mangubhai Patel inaugurated the festival at Khajuraho. The week-long festival will be held till the 26th of this month. More from our correspondent.
The 48th edition of the world-famous Khajuraho Dance Festival is being organized in Khajuraho, located in Chhatarpur district of Madhya Pradesh. The festival is being organized on the theme of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Renowned artists from across the country and the world are performing at the festival. On the first day, Kathak performance by the disciples of late Pandit Birju Maharaj Kalashram New Delhi is center of attraction. Besides dance performances, tourists are getting acquainted with the local culture, art and food by participating in interesting activities like Heritage Run, Village Tour, Water Rafting, E-Bike Tour organized by Tourist Department during the festival. Pooja P. Vardhan, AIR News.
And now let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of this struggle every day.
The 20th of February 1868 was the day when the paper Amrit Bazar Patrika was first published in undivided Bengal's Jessore district. The paper was published by 2 brothers, Shishir Ghosh and Motilal Ghosh. In 1871, the paper shifted its base to Kolkata. Its sharp criticism of the British was making the colonial government uncomfortable.
In 1878, the British enacted a draconian law called the Vernacular Press Act to curtail criticism of the government in the local language press. One publication that refused to stop was the Amrit Bazar Patrika. The day after the act was promulgated, the newspaper started publishing only in English and continued to challenge the colonial government. The legendary Amrit Bazar Patrika and its journalists were at the forefront of India's struggle for independence and early proponents of the concept of press freedom.
In addition to this, the paper raised money to fight sedition cases against Bal Gangadhar Tilak and strongly objected to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's expulsion from the then Calcutta's Presidency College. After the retirement of Shishir Ghosh, his son Tushar Kanti Ghosh took over in 1931. He was arrested for criticizing the biased judicial system of the British.
In 1946, the newspaper left its front page blank for 3 days to to oppose the horrific communal violence that had engulfed Kolkata ahead of the partition of India. The paper finally shut its press in 1991 after a run of 123 years. And it was on the 20th of February 1947 that Clement Attlee declared that the British would quit India by June 1948.
On February 20th, 1947, British Prime Minister Clement Attlee announced in the House of Commons the decision of the British government to transfer power to responsible Indian hands by a date not later than June 30th, 1948. The Prime Minister and the Secretary of State, who made an identical statement in the House of Lords, expressed the government's regret that continuing differences among the Indian parties prevented the transfer of power.
His Majesty's government will have to consider to whom the powers of the central government in British India should be handed over on due dates, whether as a whole to some form of central government for British India or in some areas to the existing provincial governments or in such other ways as may seem most reasonable and in the best interests of the Indian people.
The arrival of Mountbatten as Viceroy, with orders to wind up what remained of the British administration in the next 14 months, gave a sharper edge to the British government's purpose. However, on the 3rd of June 1947, Mountbatten declared that the British would leave India sooner, on the 15th of August 1947.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events is being organized by the government as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. To commemorate the occasion as a Jan Utsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The quiz is being conducted every Monday and Tuesday in Morning News. The next question of Amrit Mahotsav quiz will be shared with our listeners tomorrow.
And in cricket, India have set a victory target of 185 runs for West Indies in third and final T20 international of three-match series at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. The hosts scored 184 for 5 in stipulated 20 overs. Surya Kumar Yadav was the highest scorer for India with impressive 65 runs off just 31 balls. Chasing the target, West Indies were 6 for 1 in 5 balls when reports last came in.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. National capital Delhi is likely to have mist. Temperature will vary between 10 and 26 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a mainly clear sky. Chennai is likely to have fog in the morning, partly cloudy sky later. Leh and Gilgit are likely to have partly cloudy sky. Guwahati, Shillong, Itanagar, Gangtok and Agartala will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Visakhapatnam will have partly cloudy sky with haze. Imphal and Kohima will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. 63.44% voter turnout recorded in single-phase assembly elections in Punjab. 57.43% voting registered in the third phase in Uttar Pradesh till 5 p.m. Campaigning in full swing for two-phase polling in Manipur and remaining phases of Uttar Pradesh. Election Commission restores maximum limit on number of star campaigners as COVID-19 cases decline in the country. Prime Minister Modi says development in Arunachal Pradesh being accelerated with focus on modern infrastructure. India advises its citizens in Ukraine to leave the country temporarily in view of continued tensions. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets Indian community at Munich, emphasizes on strong momentum of India-Germany relations. President Ramnath Kovind to review naval fleet at a ceremonial event at Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh tomorrow. EPFO adds 14.6 lakh net subscribers during December last year. 48th Khajuraho Dance Festival begins in Madhya Pradesh. And in cricket, India set a 185-run target before West Indies in the third and final T20 international in Kolkata. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.